Mission control, the third step in the 9 steps to successful selling. When I think of mission control, I always think of the banks of monitors and the rocket ship going up on the big monitor in the front, and Houston, and talking about the countdown, all this technical engineer type stuff right before the big blast off. Mission control is controlling the mission. The mission, if you remember from our last video, is trying to get the appointment, the blast off, if you were, and get started with that client. Now, a lot of things happen right, but some things it doesn't go always according to plan. And one of the things that you should anticipate is that when you ask for the appointment, you might get an objection. You might get a no. In fact, the only 2 times in the entire relationship with the client that you're going to get any kind of rejection is at step number 2, which is when you're asking for the appointment, which leads to step number 3, or mission control, or when you're asking for the sale, which is about step number 7, I believe, and that's the eagle has landed, and we'll get to that later in this tape series. We're at step number 3, though, controlling the mission, mission control. Your mission is to get in there, diagnose what's wrong or where you can help that client, and then come back with a solution. Now, if they don't let you sit down to do the diagnosis, you can't go any farther. It's over. So there is no mission. So the mission here is to control the conversation so you can handle their concerns and still make an appointment to get together so you can begin the diagnosis part. By the way, when we've really arrived at doing this well, the diagnosis part, they'll pay us. I mean, they pay doctors for a diagnosis. Why aren't they paying salespeople? Because we haven't risen that level of professionalism that they see value, that they'll even pay for that. But believe me, the day we do rise to that level, they'll even pay us to do the needs analysis or the business profile. Now, as I control this mission again, try to handle any possible objections or concerns they might have before they will give me an appointment. And again, remember, 50 hockey pucks a week are coming in trying to get this person to sit down and make an appointment. What's going to make you different? What's going to make this stand out? First, understand where we are in the selling chain of events. You've identified them as a potential good prospect. You've now asked them for the appointment, and we're at the point now where they've said no to the appointment. So if I'm going to control this mission, I need to understand, first of all, it's the person who asks the questions that's always in control. That's why you always come in with a list of open-ended questions. So you're never at a loss as to ask this person a certain question about their business. But remember, the guiding principle in controlling the mission is the person who asks the questions is always in control. So if you don't have a list of questions, you can't be in control because you don't know what to say next. And if you get stuck for what to say, you're not sure what to ask next, okay? So that being said, let's get into this mission control specifically. It kind of reminds me, frankly, that when I ask for anything and I get a no or any kind of objection, that probably the best way to handle any of these is to think like a 2-year-old. Believe it or not, there's a person I saw speak a few years ago, and his speech was entitled, "Sell Like a 2-Year-Old." And I got to thinking, you know, he's absolutely right. I've got a 2-year-old named Levi, and this guy is perfect for selling. I can't wait to get him on the streets because he has, first of all, no fear. No, there's no call reluctance on Levi's part. It doesn't matter. The guy will go anywhere and basically do anything. I think we're taught fear. It's a conditioned response as we grow older. But Levi is a great salesperson because he just doesn't take no for an answer. I mean, his first technique is what I call the deaf technique. And that's where he'll say, "Daddy, I want a cookie." And I'll say, "Levi, sorry, no, it's almost dinner time." "Daddy, I want a cookie." Now, I understand that, Levi. We're going to eat dinner, and it's going to make you full, and then you won't eat a full dinner, so you got to wait. "Daddy, can I have a cookie?" I mean, he'll keep going, and finally you say, "Oh, just take the cookie and be quiet." And they know if they keep asking, sooner or later, I'll just give him the cookie so he won't say anything. Just get him out of my hair. That's just what I call the deaf technique. Now, he's a lot more advanced than that, I find out. He does the upsell, too. We'll say, "Levi, it's time for bed." And he'll say, "2 cartoons, Daddy," or 1 cartoon. "No, no, Levi, you got to go." "Oh, 1 cartoon, please, 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 1 cartoon." "Levi, no, we got to go to bed." And finally, I'll give, "Okay, Levi, if we watch 1 cartoon, we'll go to bed, right?" And he'll say, yeah, Daddy." I'll say, "Great, let's watch a cartoon." 2, right away. He's upselling me. I just agreed to 1 cartoon, now he wants 2. It doesn't matter what the number is because he does it for the sheer joy of it. I'll say, "Okay, 2 cartoons, Levi." He'll go, 4. I mean, he's always asking for more. He's always upselling. And then, at 2 years old, he's figured this out. Now he does what I call the downsize approach, where he'll come to me and he'll say, "Daddy, I want a cookie. I don't want two, Daddy, just one. I don't want two cookies, Daddy, just one cookie. So he's downsizing me, and he hasn't asked for anything yet, but he's figured this out that I'm going to try and cut him down. So he cuts himself down. You know, hey, I'm not asking for the world, Daddy, just a measly little one cookie, not two or three. And the list goes on. So sometimes when we go back and just think back how we were when we were a lot younger, before we were conditioned, before we got so many no that we kind of clambered down and didn't like that no, and it kind of didn't feel good, so we quit being as tenacious maybe as we probably naturally are, and somewhere along the line we got glassed in a little bit. So think about that 2-year-old technique, and not necessarily being deaf or downsizing, but understand the dynamics and maybe having a little more tenacity. The people that are successful because they don't give up. Persistence is the #1 key of any successful salesperson. They don't quit. And as we know, the cliche goes that someone gets sold on every call. Either they sell you, they don't need it, or you sell them that you've got a service or value that you could possibly offer them. All right? So when I look specifically now at controlling the mission, really there's only 5 things I have to worry about, 5 specific steps that we'll cover in dealing with virtually any objection. And if you wanted to make a list, by the way, of all the objections out there, and I still remember vividly my first year, it seemed like there's a million objections out there. Everywhere you go, there's an objection, and you're getting them from all angles. But when you really boil it down, when you really try and condense it and say, what are all the objections I'm really getting, or variations of objections, there's only about 20 or 25. I mean, it seems like there's a bazillion, but there's only 20 to 25 true bona fide objections, as we call them, reasons why they couldn't possibly meet with you or do business with you in your station. So that's the first thing, is identify what are the objections you're running into. In fact, there's a lot more common ones, like your rates are too high, or your ratings suck, or I didn't like your manager, or your station's no good. I mean, believe me, it doesn't matter if you're in Chicago or Idaho or Florida, the objections are the same, no matter where you go, and there's only about 20 or 25. Selling radio is just a game, and the more you learn the strategies and tactics, the more you're going to win. But understand it's only a game. I hear people walking around radio stations going, oh my God, if I don't get this, I'm going to die. If that guy cancels, I'm going to die. No one dies. Okay, this is a great job. You mess up, you really don't kill anyone. Okay, if I'm a pilot and I mess up, I can kill people. If I'm a doctor and I mess up, I can kill people. But very few people or clients have died because you messed up or I messed up as a radio salesperson.